At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. So we welcome you to Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. I'm Stormy Buonantony, live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, alongside today Grace Remington out there in Nashville, Tennessee. And I don't know, I mean, obviously you're at your own place, your apartment studio situation that you have at home right now. I walk in and we're immediately talking with Gil and Crack about the internal temperature in the studio. Some people like it freezing cold. Some people like it really, really warm. And I usually come in and it's kind of like toasty in here with Gil, but they had to make it really cold. So do you ever have struggles with your AC at home, or are you just like perfect temperature all day, every day?
Dude, it is so humid here. I mentioned this yesterday. We've been under tornado warnings for the last 4 days now. And last night, the sirens started going off at 2:30 in the morning, and they ran until about 5 a.m. So if I'm a little bit delirious today, pay no minds. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The group chat was popping off. We were all wondering, do we run to staircases? Do we run into the bathroom? What do we do? And everyone ended up being safe and fine. But, of course, my stupid gambling brain was like, what does this mean for the baseball games tomorrow? And they're all still on. So,
which we will.
But yeah, very humid here.
We've got a handful of games that weather will be impacting today, for some for better or worse. A lot of wind blowing out of ballparks today, so we can get into all of that, which actually leads me to where I'm going to start in the rundown today. So producer Brian Ortega, if you would, let's set the table for what we have to come over the course of the next 2 hours.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the rundown.
Yeah, we've got plenty of baseball today. 3 games that are going to be in action, getting underway while we're on the air today. And MLB off to a fun start this season, especially if you are a Dodgers fan, because apparently, Grace, that World Series magic has carried over to 2025. They're down 5-0 early to the Braves yesterday. LA brings it back to tie the game in the 9th, and as Joe Davis put it on the call, Shohei Ohtani is inevitable, and he walks it off for them. They get another win. Even their manager after the game said, we had no business winning that game yesterday, yet here we are. Okay, we lost Grace, but we will get her back on in a moment. And so Dodgers end up winning 6-5 because of course they do. And like I said, Shohei Ohtani walks it off. They remain perfect, 8-0 to start the season. Meanwhile, the Braves remain winless, 0-7. Do cash another +1.5 run line bet, Grace. But we have you back, apparently. I was just saying, again, another win for the Dodgers yesterday. Even when they're not supposed to win, they do.
I know, that's absurd. The best start to a season ever for a World Series champs. I guess we should have expected nothing less, but it's a little bit unfair when you have the best roster of all time and the baseball gods are on your side. Like, save some of that luck for some of these poorer teams out there, I guess.
And I really am feeling for the Braves now, too. Like I mentioned, 0-7 to start the year. 3 of their 7 losses have been by a single run, and then last night's dagger. And I'll say this about the Braves. I feel for them. Tough schedule to start the year. On the road against the Padres, on the road against the Dodgers, dealt a tough hand injury-wise. Oh, and the guy that you acquire in the offseason ends up missing half of the season due to a PED suspension. I do, however, believe the train will get on the tracks here soon, ideally, for Atlanta. I know our producer, one of our producers here, Wyatt Tomchek, he might be outside right now. He would have been very happy to hear that. Number 2 in our top 5 items on the rundown today, big slate in the NHL as well. More games with playoff potential, seeding implications. Jonathan Davis, VSiN Hockey Betting Analyst, is going to join us. We'll unpack also some of the action last night. Crazy game in Carolina. Canes beat the Caps 5-1. We had lots of post-whistle antics, fights galore, 142 penalty minutes, Grace, 122 of them coming in that third frame and a very questionable takedown that I'm curious Jonathan Davis's opinion on. He does, however, cash what he has been betting consistently in an Alex Ovechkin anytime goal, as he is now just inching closer by the day to that record of Wayne Gretzky.
Okay, I've been thinking a lot about how to bet the great chase. Like, you can't bet the anytime goal, even though it's plus odds every day. I think you're going to lose over time. But now, since there's only, is it 7 games now? Yeah, yesterday was 4. He needed 4 and 8. Now he needs 3 and 7. I feel like you could. I feel like you could start betting it every day. And if it's a losing record, like, you'll still end up profitable. Yeah, so I mean, we'll see what Jonathan Davis says.
I am very excited to talk to him. I know that he has an angle on, instead of betting the team, betting the goalie. I have a couple teams that I bet earlier, like a few weeks back, Chicago and Carolina, who are still to come. Chicago coming up on Friday, probably not going to happen, but hey, you never know. Crazier things have happened. So that cash is plus 145 yesterday, and he really cited in his article the experience and record that he's had against Frederik Andersen specifically over the course of the years. 10 goals now in 13 games against Freddie Andersen. He stops 20 of 21 shots yesterday, but still can't stop that one from Alex Ovechkin. We also cashed our Jackson Blake anytime point yesterday in that game, which was nice. We'll also have Justin Perri join the show, get into a little college basketball. He does a great job over at Shot Quality Bets. We'll see what his numbers are for the men's Final Four coming up on Saturday. And worth noting, Grace, a couple national books have taken some Houston buyback. We're still seeing Duke minus 5.5 largely, but there are some 5s out there now with Houston getting played.
Okay, well, that's really good to know. I mean, I liked Houston plus 5.5. I was wondering if the public would lay it with Duke and then we would get a bit of a better number on the Cougars, but maybe now is the time to buy. I'm still waiting it out because I prefer the under instead of a side in that game, but We'll see.
I agree, and I think that when we do get closer to Saturday, that I think more people will bet on Duke, but you still have those other bettors that are kind of buying in the midweek that aren't necessarily the full influx of cash that we're going to see. VSiN this week, by the way, also has a pretty cool promotion going on with First Bet. It's the First Bet Pick'em Challenge, where you go to pick a spread, side, and a total in all the Final Four games, as well as getting involved in this weekend's Kentucky Derby prep races. And we'll get a full prep race preview from Jeremy Plonk, First Bet horse racing analyst. Hard to believe, Grace, we're less than 5 weeks out from the starting gate opening in the 2025 Kentucky Derby. Prep races this week from California to Dubai, kind of setting the stage for all of the horses that will be in that 20-horse field coming up May 3rd.
It really creeps up on you fast here, but I'm so excited. I'm still debating if I want to head up to the Kentucky Derby. I know producer Brian is going. We're excited to see his seersucker suit, especially now that you know what seersucker is. And then there's a race actually the weekend after called the Iroquois Steeplechase here in Nashville that I definitely will be going to. So this is super fun. I haven't talked to a horse racing expert in quite a while, so I'm excited to see what Jeremy says.
I rode a horse this weekend, so I feel like I'm going to have positive vibes for the races.
What was the situation? Was this just like a leisurely trail ride? What was the event here?
It was.
Okay.
I was trying to get a little trot going, but apparently my horse didn't want to cooperate. The horse's name was Payday, though. And I don't know about you guys. I think that says positive vibes coming into the races this weekend. So excited to discuss that with Jeremy Plonk a little bit later. And we're also going to cook up some parlays because we know how much y'all love turning a little into a lot. And we're going to have fun with it, give you some options tonight and heading into the weekend. But okay, so a little more baseball here. We mentioned Ohtani's day, but overall, I think, Grace, just an interesting day betting baseball. A couple things we talked about going in. You get your Blue Jays play to come home. Cubs A's goes over again. Yankees lose 2 in a row now to Arizona. Paul Skeens gets his first win of the season but falls short of the K prop. I've just been seeing the GQ shoot with Livy Dunn a lot. But I mean, just some interesting results coming through. One in particular I wanted to ask you about with this A's ballpark Sacramento situation that we talked about going into yesterday. So the over comes through again. Cubs outscored the A's in the series 35-9. How much of this do you think is like A's bad pitching and the ballpark versus just the Cubs being good and maybe better than some people thought they were, or what you thought they were, because they were a team that I know some people were high on coming into the season?
I think it's a fair question, but you look at the combined score of this series, Cubs won or outscored the A's 35-9. If it were really a ballpark thing, wouldn't we see the A's put a few more runs up there as well? You look at the A's pitchers here, Joey Estes, I don't really like him. Luis Severino, Jeffrey Springs. I mean, there's enough good there to like those guys. It could just be bad outings for them. I think the fact that the A's signed them, first of all, just shows that the A's are, it's kind of a signal that they are a little bit interested in winning, maybe not this year, but in the future. But this ballpark, I mean, it's the smaller dimensions is going to help any team that plays there. Its dimensions are similar to where the Reds play at the Great American Ballpark, which is the best ballpark in the majors for hitting home runs. And we have seen to start the season, the A's have homered in their first 6 games. The last time they had a 6-game streak of home runs was 2002. So they are benefiting from this smaller ballpark. I think they just ran into a really good team. The Cubs last year and this year to start are a top 10 team in all the appropriate hitting metrics. So, and it wasn't even great hitting weather yesterday. It was in the 50s. So I think it's less about the ballpark. I think it was just a bad day of pitching for Severino and Springs, and then the Cubs are a really good team.
I just do think like potentially a good thing just to keep tabs on, because the dimension of the park, it's going to get warmer and more humid out there as the season goes. And if the A's pitching staff isn't great, could lead to some more overs. So we'll see. It's just something worth keeping tabs on, especially considering how early they were hitting in those games. Like the overs were cashing in the 3rd, 4th, 5th inning of all of those matchups. Also for the Yankees in that Arizona Diamondbacks game, Zach Gallen was awesome. 13 strikeouts, no walks in 6 2/3 inning. Yankees only scored 3 runs. So maybe the torpedo bats aren't the automatic dub everybody has been trying to make them seem as if they are, okay? But we're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we're going to stick with MLB. We've got plenty of games to get to today, including 3 that are going to get underway over the course of the next 2 hours while we're on the air. Preview those and a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, alongside Grace Remington, Stormy Buonantony with you. And we were joking, Grace, last segment about the weather and coldness, and then your feed went out for a second and we were kind of talking in the commercial break. Maybe that's because of the weather.
Yeah.
Like, was it not a tornado warning, no sirens that time, but maybe that's what happened.
Gosh, God forbid the sirens go off during a show. No, apparently 30 minutes south of me last night, the winds were 60 miles an hour, but all day yesterday, during the day, they were 25. I couldn't even go outside. I don't know about you. Like, I'm kind of smaller, but 25 mile an hour winds is enough to take my feet off the ground for a millisecond. So it's kind of crazy out here.
Got to experience taking flight out there in the streets in Nashville. My goodness.
So fun.
But with that in mind, as we look at the Major League Baseball slate today, there are a handful of games where the weather is going to play a role, not tornado warning related, but we're going to see a lot of wind today. There are some places that are going to have rain impacted. You are really big into gauging the weather and looking at all of this stuff before you dive into your handicap. So what should people know today specifically, any games that could be impacted?
Well, first of all, I guess if we're going from Midwest to East Coast, we're seeing a lot of the same weather. It's kind of like this tornado superstorm thing that's kind of traveling east. But it's not like, what people need to know is each ballpark is different. Each ballpark has a different elevation. It's going to have a different humidity. So you have to take it case by case and really check the weather for each city. But we can start with Red Sox Orioles, since that's the early game here. So we're staying in Baltimore this one, and the temperature difference from yesterday to today is jumping from 54 to 75, and it's a day game, so it's only going to get hotter as the game goes on. That humidity also jumping from 59% to 69%, and we're going to get 14-mile-an-hour winds directly out to center field. Now, when we're seeing this is a 25 increase in temperature, that is going to limit the movement on these pitches. So it's going to be a lot better for hitters. And you have two pitchers here who kind of struggled in their first outing of the year. Charlie Morton, I mean, he's been a mainstay in the league for a long time, but he only went 3 1/3 innings in his first start of the season. Tanner Houck for Boston went 5 2/3 innings, but gave up 7 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned, 3 walks and only 2 strikeouts. In terms of offense, Baltimore is a top 5 offense to start the season, picking up right where it left off last year. Boston is kind of on the decline, which is a little surprising. They were a high strikeout rate team last year, despite putting up good hitting numbers. The difference is this year is they still strike out at a high rate, but their hitting metrics have declined. They were a top 10 team. Now they're bottom 6 with a 69 weighted runs created plus. For reference, the average there is 100. So they are way below average. Baltimore also has the better bullpen here. So my play last night was going to be Baltimore minus 105 on the money line. These numbers move so fast. I'm seeing a minus 120 now at Bally. That is the lowest I would take it. I think that's priced right where they should be. So if you can get Baltimore minus 120, I'd go ahead and do that. Maybe you could take a Baltimore team total. If that's the case, take them in the first 7. Don't take the full game team total. As the home team, they might not be hitting in that bottom of the 9th inning, right? So you want the full complement of outs. But I would go with Baltimore on the money line here if you can get the correct price.
Okay, yeah, and that is, I will tell you, looking at some of these bet splits, which, reminder, everybody, if you want to know where the money is going, at VSiN.com, we have those splits available for you straight from Circa as well as DraftKings Sportsbooks. So you see kind of where those higher dollar professional type bets are coming in, as well as the public perspective. VSiN.com/subscribe. You get access to all of that stuff. And we've got a VSiN summer special right now, just $59, but neither here nor there. Looking at the splits for the games today, the Orioles are the most bet team by ticket count and by cash on the day today. Looking at that, and again, this is our first pitch of the day out there in Charm City. I actually, and I know what you said about the bats there for the Red Sox. I went over this game, but even that has moved from the 9 to now 9.5 most places. For a lot of the reasons that you referenced about the pitching, like both of these starters got drilled in their season openers, and I feel like these lineups have the capabilities of taking advantage of that. To your point about Baltimore, also should get Gunnar Henderson back today, apparently, which could be a nice boost to their lineup. And as we mentioned, the weather, like warmer weather, winds blowing out. I feel like Orioles and the over is probably the way that this thing goes, at least in my opinion. Also, I didn't realize this is maybe stupid, how old Charlie Morton is. 41 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Jackson Holliday was 5 when this dude made his MLB debut. That's just wild to think about.
Uncle Charlie,
there we go. The second most bet side of the day, Grace, is the Yankees, who are taking on the Diamondbacks later on tonight. That's a high total as well. I want to say we're at 10 in that one right now, with Carrasco versus Merrill Kelly. How do you see that one?
So this one has seen some crazy movement. As you mentioned, last night, that total opened up with the over 9.5 at even odds. And I was about to be all over that, but I went to check some numbers. Literally 5 minutes later, it moved to minus 120 for the over 9.5. So I was like, I'm not betting that. I ended up betting the first 5 over 5.5 at plus 102. I think it's still available at minus 105 at this point. But there's a big difference between 10 and 9.5. I suppose, if you're going over 9.5, you could push at 10. But I like the over here as well. The temperature is jumping 20 degrees from 44 to 65. The humidity increasing from 68% to 87%. So the pitches are moving less off the mound, and then the ball is traveling further when it's hit in the air. Both of these offenses really talented. They're top 10 in strikeout rate, top 4 in walk rate, top 5 in all of the hitting metrics. The only difference for the Yankees this year compared to last year is they are striking out a lot, and their walk rate is also down a couple points too. They were first in the MLB last year. Now they're 21st, but if you're mashing home runs with a torpedo bat, I wonder if that even matters. You know, like you don't even need to get on base if you're just mashing taters all day. But looking at these starters, Merrill Kelly, Carlos Carrasco, not really much to like about these guys. Merrill Kelly, last year, his contact rate, his barrel rate, his fly ball rate all went up. That's not great against this Yankees team. Carlos Carrasco trying to make a comeback in the majors after a couple bad seasons with the Guardians and the Mets, but he's entering his age 38 season, so you're not expected to get any better at this point. The projections for him this season have him in the high 4s or mid 5s for his ERA and FIP, so that's not great. I think for this one, the bullpens have actually been pretty good, so I think you could isolate the starting pitchers and the portion of the game where it is warmer weather, and that's why I would take the first 5 over.
Okay, let's go back to the earlier slate of the day. And just a reminder, because these games are starting at the top of the next hour, so around 10:05 Pacific, 1:05 Eastern, we will re-hit these games again. But Rockies, Phillies a big home favorite with Taijuan Walker on the hill. Astros, Twins as well. Twins at home around -142 now. So a big move on that number, out from -120 late last night to 142. Home favorites now against the Astros. Any lean or bet in either of those matchups?
Rockies, Phillies, yes. I'm checking the price now. Last night, the over 9.5 was even odds. It's -102. So I think that's still playable. Again, you have this massive change in weather day to day in the same city, jumping from 49 to 70 degrees and the humidity jumping from 63 to 82%. So that already limits the ball movement by at least an inch, which you're thinking about making contact on the bat, like an 1/8 of an inch difference matters. Now those pitchers are getting an inch less of movement. So really good for the hitters. On top of that, you're getting 16-mile-an-hour winds out to right center field. These two pitchers, I mean, I don't even know what, like Antonio Senzatella might be one of the worst contracts in the majors right now. They paid him $50 million, I think, in 2021, and he has started, I believe, a total of 7 games in the last 3 seasons because he's been battling injuries, but really no good numbers with him. And then for the Phillies, you have Taijuan Walker, who wasn't supposed to be on the opening day roster, but here he is because of injuries to that rotation. It's kind of surprising he's even still with the team. I mean, his metrics just sharp decline. The velo, 91 on the sinker, 91 on the four-seamer. That's like a high school pitch at this point. So it's kind of hard to find anything I like about those two pitchers. No surprise there's a high total here. I would bet the full game total at -102. Last night it had reached -120 at one point, so I ended up betting Phillies first 7 team total over 4.5 at +100.
Yeah, and I'm even seeing up from the 9.5, 10 at DraftKings. So again, shop around, find the best value that you can on some of these numbers. Speaking of numbers and metrics, we're going to get into some shot quality numbers next. Justin Perri joins us as we break down the Final Four, the college basketball crown, and the NIT. Best bets coming your way after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Men's Final Four is upon us, coming up this weekend on Saturday. All chalk all the time as we have 4 number 1 seeds making it all the way through to San Antonio. Back here on Money Moves alongside Grace Remington, Stormy Buonantony with you, and we will get into both of those games. Florida still holding strong as a 2.5-point favorite against Auburn. Total has ticked down to 159.5. Houston, Duke up from the 4.5 to 5.5 with Duke favored, although we are seeing some buyback on Houston with 5s moving around. That total standing tall at 136.5. To help us break this down and more in the college game, we welcome in Justin Perri of Shot Quality via the Progressive Guest Line. You can follow him on X at Justin Perri with an I 8. Justin, welcome in. We're going to get into both of these games. I know you've got some college basketball crowns, some MIT action, so lots of things that people can get involved with today. But I want to start with the Florida-Auburn game because the big question mark kind of around this game has been the health and status of Janai Broome. I think we all expect him to play in this game, but what will he look like? How does that impact your view of the numbers that you ultimately unpack and you get set for this one?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of uncertainty baked in there, but for me, I'm expecting him to play at full health, full strength. I don't think you come back into that game that honestly felt a little bit more secure than their previous matchup. So I feel pretty good about them here in terms of Broome's health, not something I'm really discounting. If he gets hurt or is not at 100%, this handicap is absolutely entirely different. He's one of maybe two players that are truly worth more than a possession in college basketball right now, along with Cooper Flagg on the other side of the bracket. So, yeah, this is a big game. I like Auburn here. I'll tell you that right now. I did take the points. I took first half money line as well for a nice plus 110. I don't hate the full game money line either, but I do think this could very easily come down to the last couple of points. I think, the way Florida plays might be more of like a second half victory for them. So I do like that first half side with Auburn, especially if you're worried about that injury angle. It's more likely to happen in the second half, right? In prolonged time, it could rear its ugly head. Hopefully we get a full game from one of the best players we've seen. And I think they could very easily go on to see Duke, who I do expect will beat Houston when all is said and done.
I love that first half angle for Florida here. That's smart. In terms of the total, we've seen it kind of bounce back and forth, but at least right now at Circa, it's back to the opening number of 160. Do you have any thoughts on that?
This one's kind of tough. I do lean a little bit under on this one, just because I think this could slow down early in the game, especially with how these teams can tend to play. Florida might speed this game up a little in the second half, especially if their shots start to go down. We've seen Walter Clayton time and time again seems to find his stroke in the last 15 minutes. I'm not sure if that's because they figure out how to get him open or if he just starts to take creating his own shot into his own hands, kind of, and starts hitting some of these most ridiculous shots ever. I mean, there was that one in the last game with a minute left. He just dribbled out, turned around, nailed a three. It's like pickup basketball to him sometimes when he really gets into his zone. And it feels like he has that clutch gene, that clutch factor, and it happens in the last 10 minutes. So I wouldn't be shocked to see the game pick up a little bit at the end with one team maybe trailing by 2 or 3 possessions, trying to close it down. Fouls could definitely get prolonged here. So I don't hate, that first half under and that second half over trend we've been seeing throughout the tournament. Teams sort of finding the stroke, getting a little bit more hasty and fighting for their lives, essentially, with fouls prolonging the second half more so than the first, and maybe even more so than what the algorithms account for in their standard, mathematical equations when trying to figure out where those extra minutes, those fouls might come into play. We've seen final minutes have 15 points, plenty in March.
College basketball betting analyst and content lead at Shot Quality Bets, Justin Perri, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Let's switch over to Houston-Duke. You mentioned that you do think that Duke gets the better of Houston and closes out this game to advance to the national championship. I don't think a lot of people outright, though, are going to lay minus 270 money line. So how do you feel about the spread, or at least throwing Duke in a money line parlay?
Yeah, for me, Stormy, this one's really just about laying the number. I think you want to lay the number. You want to trust Duke. You have to give them the benefit of the doubt to get this done because they are one of the best teams we've ever seen. Honestly, I think they are the best team shot quality data has seen in the 6 years that the metric has been available, has watched every shot get taken, has compared it to every shot in the database, and truly understood how good these teams are. Duke is that good. You want to trust them. I think 5 is not enough. I have this one getting done by 7-8 points when all is said and done.
I'm going to ask you about the total in this one too. 136 obviously makes a lot of sense considering the defensive efficiency, the tempo of these teams. But if Duke covers that number, you would think, there's a higher chance it goes over. So how do you feel about this total?
Yeah, I think if it aligns with Duke covering, I like the over here pretty seriously. It's a play that I put out today on Hoops HQ. So I think there's a real chance that Duke starts to dictate the pace, right? The team that wins, the team that starts to get things to go the way they want to go. Duke's going to have that NBA level of burst efficiency. They can hit 3-4 threes in a row. Houston is a little too glacial, a little too methodical to keep pace with this. So I think for me, it's taking the over, expecting Houston to have to abandon their normal style of play and go more with a fast-paced method to try to keep up with the efficiency Duke has. We're going to see Duke drop 85, 90 points unless the length of Houston somehow confounds them. I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're fully ready for it. They have the size themselves. So I'm going to take the over because I think Kelvin Sampson and Houston has to start shooting, has to start playing a little bit faster to keep up with Duke, because if they play slow, Duke can beat you there too. So I think you get Duke's preferred pace, which is faster, and this number could look a little low by the time we get into the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's something when it came to the spread, I kind of struggled with, because at first I did like Houston. I haven't placed a bet on this game. I don't know if I ultimately will get there, but just the question mark of, can Houston score enough points to be in this with Duke when all is said and done, because of that we know the efficiency that they obviously have, and you referenced the metrics that you guys have at shot quality, that they've been the best that you've seen. Duke also as high as -110 out there in the market just to win it all, where things sit right now. Let's go from the Final Four, though, to the NIT title tilt coming up tonight on ESPN, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. Chattanooga and UC Irvine going head-to-head. Largely, I'm seeing UC Irvine laying 3.5, total 145.5. What do the numbers tell you?
Yeah, for us, I think you want to take those points and run with Chattanooga. We like that Chattanooga team. I've been a little bit down on the play style for UC Irvine. Some of the data maybe coming out of their season could be a little lopsided in terms of luck playing in maybe a softer conference. I mean, sure, we just saw with UC San Diego, they were a possession away from beating that Michigan team. A lot of people saying, oh, where was the Cinderella? The Cinderella was in this conference with UC Irvine, one possession away from beating a very good Michigan team. So they were just, a step off. That's okay. Irvine was there too in this conference, but our metrics had a very serious separation, maybe more so than anyone else's, between San Diego and Irvine. So I'm going to take the discount in fading them and take the extra possession and the hook, essentially, with Chattanooga. Expect this championship game to stay tight and close. Probably have this one a little bit closer to the pick'em. So take any points you can get. Take the value on the money line. If you want to get out of it, a nice middle. I love taking a dog and waiting for them to make a run, and then taking +3.5 on both sides and sitting back and watching, or money lines and plus money on both sides and trying to get those live arbs. Those are really nice ways to play college basketball, which is so set up perfectly for runs and dips and places to sell and buy. So that's how I would look at this one tonight. I do not expect one team to come out and just dominate start to finish. Take the dog, wait for the dog to get up, take the newly dubbed dog in Irvine and hold both at +150 and hopefully get them. You'll get one of them home, and no hope. That's how it'll happen. So, but I do think if you just want to go straight on it, Chattanooga.
We have a couple quarterfinal games in the college basketball crown as well. Cincinnati, a 6.5-point favorite against UCF. Villanova, a 5.5-point favorite against USC. We have about a minute 30 left here for your picks, but I'm curious too, quickly, what have you thought about the crown? Because it has been a little bit controversial.
Yeah, it's tough to bet. That's the biggest thing, right? We don't know who's playing. We don't know motivations. We don't really understand rosters, and good luck trying to figure that out in handicapping. So much of what we know about college basketball teams comes from their points per possession efficiencies. That's how KenPom does it. That's how shot quality does it. And when the players are all gone and the units and the rotations look different, you're up, the creek without a paddle a little bit. So I always advise people, if you want to bet on this, parse those units down a little bit, make it beer money instead of college tuition money. And take the points. In terms of how I'm handicapping the matchups today, I think you want the points in both of these. You want to take, you don't want to lay it right now. I think in terms of what shot quality is saying, especially in the UCF matchup where there's some familiarity, I want those points. I want to take the underdogs in both matchups if I'm betting the crown at all.
Justin, you're awesome. Thank you so much for the insight. As always, we appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
on X at Justin Perri 8. Always appreciate his time and shot quality. I know, at least for me personally, has helped a ton this college basketball season, and always really appreciative of that insight and the information that they lend us. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, shifting gears to the NHL with our own Jonathan Davis, break down tonight's 9-game slate, Ovi's chase, the melee in Carolina, and so much more.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Hopefully this segment is less chaotic than Kane's Caps last night. Going to get into some NHL here as we welcome you back to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, alongside Grace Remington, Stormy Buonantony with you. Always excited to get into some stick and puck with our guy Jonathan Davis, VSiN Hockey Betting Analyst. You can also catch him as the host of Ice Cap on SiriusXM NHL Radio. Hopefully no melees for us, Jonathan. Congratulations on cashing another Alex Ovechkin anytime goal as he creeps closer and closer. But I did actually want to start with that game big picture, because I'm curious your thoughts on what transpired in the third period with Carolina and Washington, particular Jalen Chatfield's move. I know a handful of people have been calling for him to be suspended for that, but I saw Frank Saravalli report that it doesn't look like he'll have any subsequent penalty. How do you view things?
Yeah, that's really disappointing that he's not going to be suspended or fined, because if that's something that players know that they can do and get away with, then I think we've got a problem. And I'm surprised the approach that George Peros, who was a pugilist, and if you can see the sign behind me is about Violent Gentlemen. It's a company that George Peros is a part of. He was violent, but he wasn't dirty, and that was dirty.
We've been following the great chase with you, and one of your angles, so many betting markets to get into with Ovi's chase, but you have been saying bet the goalie he scores against instead of the team. So now he has 7 games to score 3 goals, and it's interesting because on DraftKings, they still have the Blue Jackets as the favorite to be the team against at plus 140, but you go over to the goalie against market, it's Sorokin for the Isles, who's the favorite there, and then the 2 Columbus tendies. So have you thought any more about how you might play that?
Well, I've got a couple in-pocket plays. So I've got Ilya Sorokin. I have him at plus 800 to be the goalie that Ovechkin scores against. I've seen it down to about plus 390. And I've got Daniel Tarasov of the Columbus Blue Jackets at 9-1. He's now at plus 460. And I took Tarasov over Merzlikins because for whatever reason, Merzlikins has yet to play against Ovechkin. He was the backup in both games. And then I also have both Penguin goalies at 25-1. Just, the last game of the year, Sidney Crosby, Ovechkin. The interesting thing.
Oh, no, looks like we lost Jonathan Davis. I hope that we can hop him back on quickly, because so it sounds like based on the goaltenders that he has bet and the teams that I have bet, we have action on every team in the 7 games remaining between the two of us. Because I also threw a flyer a couple weeks ago on Chicago and Carolina. And obviously we just saw last night when the lone goal scored by Washington is Alex Ovechkin against Freddie Anderson. We don't know who will be in net that Thursday night coming up on April 10th against Carolina. But my thought process being that there was potential that Alex Ovechkin could break the record early, and preferably at home. So those are the two I bet. JD, so I hear you have us back with us. I was joking that between the goaltenders that you've bet and the teams that I've bet, we have pretty much all of the bases covered. So we're going to cash something coming up in the next couple of weeks.
All right, well, let's go sharesies on this one, Stormy.
There we go. Yes, okay. We'll have to pool our funds. We'll get on the text chain. Let's get into tonight's action, though, coming up. We've got 9 games on tap. Let's just start with, first and foremost, your favorite play of the day as you went through the slate. What stood out to you above anything else?
Well, I don't know if necessarily the favorite, but my upset special, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight against the St. Louis Blues. I'm going to say the 10-game win streak comes to an end. You get Pittsburgh at plus 185, I think, right about now. They won. They beat St. Louis in their only meeting earlier this season. They won 7 of 8. The Blues, did the escape hatch in their game against Detroit, scoring with about 30 seconds to go to tie it and then win it in overtime. There's no reason that they have to lose, but I think we got a good shot. Pittsburgh's played better hockey of late. Sidney Crosby I'm sure, will be pushing this team, and Crosby has been on quite a run himself. So I like the price at plus 185 for the Penguins tonight.
Stormy's Vegas Knights, one of the most heavily bet favorites of the day in terms of the handle. They are a minus 125 moneyline favorite against the Jets, and it looks like you are on that side as well.
I like it. I mean, look, the Golden Knights are one of 3 teams in the NHL who have yet to lose to Winnipeg. LA and Anaheim are the other 2 teams. Vegas has won 8 straight over the Jets. They scored 4 more goals in 6 of the 8 wins. So I'm going to split my bets between a Vegas money line play and then over 3.5 at plus 145. Look, Winnipeg, they are fighting to hold off the Dallas Stars, but Vegas at home has been really good, and they've also scored 4 more goals, I think, in 6 of their last 7 or 8 home games. So they're rolling, and I like this spot for the Golden Knights at a very low price on the money line.
It should be a fun game. 2 of the best teams in the Western Conference. I know this isn't a game that you have a bet on, but just curious your thoughts. A team that Vegas lost to the other night, the Edmonton Oilers, a big favorite on the road in San Jose. Edmonton not rushing Connor McDavid back. And I guess when you can beat Vegas without him, and then you're playing a San Jose team that is in free fall, maybe you don't need to. But did anything stand out to you about this game? Were there any angles that you think you could dive into, whether it be, any of those periods or player props or anything like that?
Yeah, I would look at the Sharks team total at over 4.5. I think it's 9 of their 11 wins against, or 9 of their last 11 games against San Jose. They've scored at least 5 goals. The one concern for me with this game for San Jose is it's a sandwich game, and that I know they're fighting for home ice, or maybe they don't. I don't know if they care as much as LA does. But they just came off the Vegas game. They're here in LA on Saturday afternoon. Wouldn't shock me to see them take the Sharks lightly. But over 4.5, and then I would look at Leon Draisaitl over 3.5 shots on goal. I think you get that at plus money as well.
Oh, okay, so Jonathan, I want to throw this at you then, because I'm trying to find something to pair up with Draisaitl for an anytime point to get us into the plus 130 to plus 150 range for something. I was looking at Victor Arvidsson, maybe. Also could go maybe Jake Wallman, he's plus 115 for a point, 5-1 for a goal, maybe money on the board against his former team thing. I'm trying to put something together with Draisaitl because I know he's going to get a point.
Well, then I would go to Montreal, Boston, and pair him with either Lane Hudson or Nick Suzuki at plus money.
Ooh, see, this is what I'm talking about, Grace. We're cooking with gas now.
See, because I've got Suzuki and Hudson I got a Nick Suzuki point and a Lane Hudson assist parlay prop at got that at plus 113 tonight.
Beautiful.
I love those assist parlay ideas. That's such a fun angle to take in these games. But in that game, Boston and Montreal.
Got 6 assists in his last 2 games. He's been an assist machine for Montreal. He's right now, I would say, the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. But yeah, that's if you want to play Draisaitl. I love the Suzuki Hudson prop just because Boston is an absolute dumpster fire right now. They've lost 9 in a row. I know they've dominated the Canadians over the years, but this is not your daddy's Boston Bruins. It's not even Boston Bruins from about 5 months ago.
Yeah, pretty big difference in motivation between these 2 teams as the Canadiens try to hang on to that wild card spot. But any other plays you have in this game?
Yeah, I would go first period over 1.5, minus 120. Montreal, 9 straight first period overs, 10 of the last 11.
Ooh. Okay, looks like we've got lots of options tonight. One last thing before I let you go. General curiosity, teams that as we get closer to the playoffs, you feel really good about. You are excited about making a little bit of a playoff run.
Wow. Well, I mean, the Golden Knights definitely love where they're going. Colorado as well in the West. I mean, they're kind of like in that cruise control mode right now. You watched them play last night. In the East, I will say, let's take the reverse. I am concerned about Washington because they're not playing. They're all about Ovechkin right now, and they're not playing playoff type hockey. They give up way too many goals. Too many times they've given up 3 goals or more. They're a concern for me. I think Ottawa, though, could be sneaky as a wild card team, and obviously the St. Louis Blues as well.
The Caps are interesting to me because if they are you a believer in the President's Trophy curse? If they do end up getting to that point, would that be something that would follow them?
It's not so much the curse. I just don't think they're built for the playoffs. Okay. I don't trust their goalie. I don't think they're strong enough down the middle. I just don't think they're built for the playoffs.
See, and that's kind of a concern that I have with the Oilers right now, too. I know what Stuart Skinner did for them last year, but they're playing Calvin Picker right now. Who? Exactly. So, great stuff from Jonathan. As always, we really, really appreciate his time. Articles up each and every day on VSiN.com.